Hi guys, welcome back. Lesson 25 today. We are going to be talking about dividing fractions. Guess what? So dividing fractions. So what I would like you to do is make sure that you have your notes out or your binder out to the notes section and that you are writing down these notes, because here's the good one. How to divide fractions. Divide fractions. I can't even spell fractions. How to divide fractions. You don't divide fractions, guys. You don't. But what you do is multiply by the reciprocal. I always spell that wrong. The reciprocal. So we're gonna have to talk about that then. So make sure you've written that down. Reciprocals. The reciprocal of 3 over 7 is 7 over 3. The reciprocal of -1/2 is -2 over 1, or just -2, right? The reciprocal of 3 over 4, that's going to be 4 over 3. So reciprocal, guys, is just flip it around. What about the reciprocal of 7? Well, remember, we can turn anything into a fraction by putting it over 1, which means the reciprocal is going to be 1/7. So now that you know what a reciprocal is, you may have heard this. When you divide fractions, you keep, change, flip. Keep, change, flip. You may have heard it like that in junior high. It was since you're in junior high, or previous years, I should say. Kind of get away from that by algebra, because you don't want to, it's more mathematically mature if you say multiply by the reciprocal, right? So let's talk about some of these guys. Example number 1. How many 2/3 are in 1? So we want to take 1 whole 1, and we want to know how many 2/3 are, so we need to divide it by 2/3. 1 divided by 2/3. Alas, we cannot divide fractions. I'm turning 1 into a fraction just to make my life easier, but we keep this first guy the same, right? Which I've done, I just put it over 1. Change this to multiplication, flip this guy to the reciprocal, 3 over 2. When we do that, we get 3/2. So how many 2/3 are there in 1? 3/2. How many 2/3 are there in 3? How many 2/3? We take 3 and we divide it by 2/3. Again, we want to turn this guy into a fraction, so we're going to do 3 over 1. We're going to multiply instead of divide by the reciprocal, which means flip that around. When we do that, we multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom, we get 9/2. 9/2. That was example number 2. Make sure you're writing these down. Oh, I'm sorry. No, that's fine. Example number 3. We've got 1 divided by 2/5. 1 divided by 2/5. Actually, this is example 2, technically. The other ones were A and B. So if you're following along at home, it's on page 141, okay? So example 2, this is A. 1 divided by that, we keep this as a fraction, right? Multiply, change this to multiplication, and reciprocal, which equals 5/2. 1 times 5 is 5, 1 times 2 is 2. So there is your answer. That was A. Let's do B. 3 over 4 divided by 2/5. Can we ever divide fractions? No, we cannot. But what we can do is multiply by the reciprocal. Flip that guy around, 5 over 2. When we do that, there's nothing that we can really cancel out. Guys, you can't cross cancel. Like, I know the last lesson was about cross canceling. You can't do that here because you have to change it to multiplication first. This is going to be 15 over 8. 15 over 8. Now, if you wanted to put that into so that's an improper fraction. Putting that into a mixed number. 8 goes into 15 one time. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 7 would give me 15. Okay? Number 3, example number 3. This is going to be 2/3 divided by 3 over 4. Again, we keep that first one, and we, instead of divide, we multiply by the reciprocal, which means we flip that guy around. When we do that, we get 8 over 9. 2 times 4 is 8. 3 times 3 is 9. All right, guys. So the practice problems are on page 143. Go ahead and get started on that. Pause the video, do those problems, and then come on back and let's see how you did. So for A, how many 2/3 are in 1? So we're gonna take 1 and we're gonna divide it by 2/3. If we do that, we get 1 over 1 times, and because we don't divide, we multiply by the reciprocal. There are 3 halves in that. It's kind of a tricky question. Just roll with me here. Oh, and how many 2/3? So that's part 1. And then how many 2/3 are in 3/4? So we take 3/4 and we divide it by 2 over 3. In order for us to do that, we keep this guy. I'm going to write this way so you can see it. 3 over 4 times, because we changed that to a multiplication, 3 over 2, which gives me 9 over 8. 9 over 8. So those should be your first 2 answers for number A, or for letter A. Let's look for B. How many 3/4 are in 3? So we're going to take 3 and we're going to cut them up and divide them into 3/4. Okay. Well, we can turn anything into a fraction by leaving it over 1. So it's going to be 3 over 1 divided by, we're going to change that to multiplication and we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So 4 over 3. We get an opportunity to cross cancel. This 3 and this 3 cancel out. We are left with 4 over 1, right? 4 on top, 1 on the bottom. My husband's husky is sitting here. All right, I'm gonna give you a preview. Hold on. So that's my husband's husky. I don't know, I can't even do this. There's my husband's husky and my dog. And okay, why I'm sharing that with you is because my husband's out of town and she doesn't like me because she's 18 years old. And so she never acknowledges me and she's sitting here asking for pets. So that's cool. Anyway, that's my story. Okay, so like I said, and see now I'm busting things. Shouldn't be moving. What am I doing? All right, so, anyway, yeah, so we've got 4, right? Because on top it was 4 and on bottom is 1. Beautiful. Sorry, I got distracted by the dogs. C, find the greatest common when I got distracted, my page turned back. The greatest common factor between 9 and 324, which we just did in the last session, which was a lot. All right, so C, describe how to use the reciprocal of the divisor to answer the division question. Basically, you're just going to be multiplying by the reciprocal. So you multiply by the reciprocal, and that's a division problem. D, describe the function of this key on a calculator. This key on a calculator. That's a reciprocal key, but that's not really all that important right now because we'll be introducing that a little bit later this semester. Okay, for E, it says use the 2-step method shown, or just multiply by the reciprocal. Divided by 2 over 3. Guys, the way that I am doing these, you need to be writing them down like this. In your book, you should be writing the question. Then you're going to be writing the multiplication by the reciprocal equals 9 over 10. Yours should look like that. F. 7 over 8 divided by 1 over 4 equals 7 over 8 times 4 over 1 equals. Well, we can cross cancel. Cross that out, I get 1. Divide this by 4, I get 2. So on the top, I get 7 times 1, which is 7. 2 times 1 on the bottom, which is 2. Okay? All right, and then we have G, which is 5 over 6 divided by 2 over 3, which equals 5 over 6 times 3 over 2. Again, we get the opportunity to cross cancel. Divide by 3, I get 1. Divide by 3, I get 2. That means upstairs I get 5, downstairs I get 4. Okay? All right, guys, great work. And let me know if you have any questions. See you in class.